We will start with questions here in the conference room. Go ahead, Josh. Once Greg settles in.
No, I'm ready.
Hey, Greg. Thanks for talking to us. Appreciate it. Bit of a wild game there for you guys. Started out with them taking a lead, but you guys really seemed to turn it around in the second half.
Yeah, a couple things. I mean, I think we weren't able to sort of settle the game down in the first half. The way they play is very disruptive. They organize the man-to-man. They step to you quick. They're quite aggressive. And as I said to the group, you have to kind of understand where on the field you can find time, and that's with the two center backs and the 2 versus 1 against the forward, and then you can pause the game, and then you can start to connect to each other a little bit in the playing. They did that better than we did that, and we weren't able to in the first half. I felt like it took us until probably 40 minutes, 35, 40 minutes, and then we did it really well at about 44 when we have a great chance at the end. The other chance that we got was kind of in transition or in the run, like in the hecticness of the game, but it was a good action. But we just, because we struggled to gain control of the game, it meant that we also didn't have a 9 as sort of a target for us. So the hope is that we could settle the game and then utilize Marco coming off and sort of connect with each other in a way that we could utilize Marco and create some space for our wingers to get going. But because we couldn't settle the game and find sort of longer or more possessions, it became counterproductive. So the second half, we came back on with the 9. We talked about just some reorganizational things, and I thought we did a better job of finding our way back into the game. So, but it's a tough way that they play. It's disruptive. It reminds me of the Almeida and the way his Chivas teams played back in 2018 in the Champions League against us, and we saw that sometimes in San Jose, and it can be disruptive, and we didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare for it, and so we were kind of working through it on the field, and I thought, again, the second half was better. I thought we had, even though I think they had the majority of the game in some ways, I felt like we had some big chances in the game that could have made the difference in the scoreline. I know they hit one off the post as well, but I felt like there's maybe 2 really good chances in the first half that were really good for us, and then a couple in the second half that looked like they were really good for us. We weren't able to do those, and I think it's a penalty at the end. Unless they're saying it's somehow outside of the box, he definitely gets a piece of them, but they didn't care for Joe tonight. So
I was going to ask you about sort of the consistency in officiating tonight, especially with Joseph Paintsel. I mean, I think you could see his frustration started in the first couple minutes there.
Yeah, I mean, look, when he gets the yellow card, he actually gets assaulted, and somehow he ends up getting the yellow card. So it's inexplicable in the situation, and it has to, for him, feel personal. When you getting smashed and the guy runs over and gives you a yellow card, then it has to feel personal. And so that was the thing that I think he was trying to reconcile through a lot of the game. It was interesting because the way they play is very combative, and because it's one-on-one, and they're very much the protagonists in some of the challenges. And we lost a lot of duels, but I felt like we did get fouled at times, and we didn't get sort of the equal share of some of those calls, or I felt like at times we were getting yellow cards for things that were maybe not as egregious. But I think it was a good game for us, and that the game and the tempo was really high, and we had to find solutions inside of that game. And because we didn't, the tempo even stayed higher. And so then we had to find ways to settle the game down to try to connect to each other. We did it again. We grew, I felt, as the game went on, to be a little bit better in that as we got through it.
Hey, Greg. You look at the starting 11 you sent out. What was you thinking in starting Sanabria with Nascimento on the bench there?
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, part of putting Sanabria in is I knew it was going to be a lot of dueling and a lot of competitive moments, and I feel like our midfield could have used a little bit of strength in some of those duels and one-on-one situations. Another guy in there who can disrupt and win some balls for us on the defending side. Somebody who could at times pick up the ball and the play out and be able to handle pressure and still be able to get out of it sometimes. So then we pushed Marco up, hoping that we could establish, again, calm in the game by understanding where we could find time, and then allow Marco to come off the line, pulling a center back with him and leaving some space for our wingers to get at their guys. The issue is we didn't find good ways to settle the game in the first half. And so us connecting as a group wasn't necessarily happening. And then we didn't have a target and the times that we just needed to look a little bit more direct and maybe play off the second ball or play off those types of situations. So we switched it, with Lucas came out, Marco went to the 10, we went to Nasi back up top, gave Marco maybe a little more freedom to go, and Nasi was able to more often keep two of their center backs in a higher position, which, it meant at times we could figure out where the 2 versus 1 was a little bit clearer and get ourselves out of some of the pressure sometimes. And then when we couldn't, we had a target and somebody who could run and stretch a little bit more at the top that maybe could keep those center backs a little more honest. So it was a calculation, probably in the end, because we couldn't settle it, was the wrong, and we switched it up at halftime. We got ourselves back into it. Having said that, in the first half, I thought we had 2 incredible chances, and we just weren't. Marco had one in that high position, and the one that we square across with that just doesn't connect to Joe, and maybe one more half sort of chance or some other in there.
You brought on. We talked about Mauricio several times, but what is it about him when he comes on? What kind of ball is he hitting there?
He's the one thing we've seen. He's an incredible server of the ball. Like his precision with the right foot to curl things in, whether it's on the run and hitting crosses or like in that situation, he's almost standing and just putting the ball into the space where only Gabe can get to it. He's got a really, really good service, great ball striker, and so. Again, I think at the end of games when sometimes the game is opened up and time and time again he has shown us that. I started Mickey just because I felt like maybe fresh legs in a couple places could help us and give us the ability to bring on a little bit more attacking Mouty as the game progressed. In the end, he makes the difference in that goal. Great run by Gabe as well to try to work in behind. So, but I think he came on and he did a nice job. We tried to get just a little bit of. It was 1 or 2 guys in terms of rotation, but we wanted to get a few guys so that we could. It's going to be a busy week, and we're going to see how it goes. So now, as we get into the next game, we'll have to see inventory to see who's ready to go in the next one. I know all of them will be mentally ready to go, but we'll see physically where we're at.
And then the shootout lineup, how did you sort of settle on that lineup? Are you asking guys, or is that what you have already set?
We set it up to a certain point, and then when it keeps going and keeps going, then the guys out there are kind of setting who's next and who's next. So through 8, we knew who we were going to go with. Through 8, they were lined up, and then after that, it became down to after John, and then it came down to Maya, Emmy, and I can't remember who the other one was. So. Yeah, so once we knew where we were going until Edwin, and then it was after that, it was kind of them talking it out and figuring who's most confident, who's ready to take it. It kind of getting into that point, it's guys stepping up for it. So when you get to 8 or 9, you hope that you save one. We didn't save one. They actually hit one off the bar, but you want your goalkeeper to try to get one of those first 5 if you can, or at this point 6 or 7. So unfortunately, he wasn't able to. Not tonight. In the future, maybe we'll see. But tonight it was for Novak to see what he could do. He hasn't had one for us to determine whether he was the answer or not the answer. In training, they both do a solid job. I can't tell you one is over. John a little more experienced, maybe has a little more gamesmanship inside of it, whereas Novak's pretty straightforward and just getting to the line and saving. I think he could have played with the opposition or with the goal or a little bit more where he's making the shooter think a little bit. I felt like it was just too straightforward sometimes for him.
Hey, Greg, thanks so much for your time. Towards the end there, it looked like Marco might have taken a knock. He certainly looked gassed. Did he escape from this one unscathed?
I'm not sure exactly. He might have been cramping up a little bit. I'm not sure exactly what it was. It was promising that when he came back on, he broke through. I thought he was going to slide it to Nasi. He felt like he had it. It was an inch. But to see him run like that, it felt positive. So I don't know exactly yet. I'll find out how he's recovering tonight and into tomorrow, and as he will as well.
You've spoken a couple times in the past couple years about good atmospheres. Tonight there was a bunch of Cruz Azul fans in the digs. Your thoughts on the atmosphere?
I thought the atmosphere was great. It didn't feel like a home game, but from that regard, it felt like our field and our stadium, but it didn't feel like our environment, if you will. But I thought the fans that were there were ours, gave what you expected. I just felt like we were a little outnumbered on the night. But the environment was fantastic. It was electric, and the game was super high intensity and high speed, which also drives the fans to be super involved in the game and emotionally invested in the game. And so I thought what was happening on the field was also driving energy through the stadium and back and forth. So I thought it was a great environment. It felt like a CONCACAF, like high stakes game, and you play those in Champions League, and tonight felt like one of those two teams that were giving everything they had to try to get a result. And the environment, I thought, was very conducive to that, what was happening on the field as well.
The team is still in with the shot, I believe, 5th or 6th.
Yeah, we're in 5th right now.
Fifth.
Yeah.
Does that change the approach for Santos at all?
No, I mean, I always felt like it was going to take at least 7 to get through. It was going to be, for me, at the start of this tournament, just because you have so many teams that are vying for just 4 spots, that it was going to be at least 7, and you probably have to have a reasonable goal differential potentially to fight. I think I saw is at least 4, if not 6 teams that are all kind of on 4 points, and then there's another 4 ahead of, and so it's going to be about taking 3 points. The extra point would have been nice because it would have been a little bit of a tiebreaker if you can win the next game, but I always felt like at the start of this, you're going to have to get at least 2 wins, a draw, and maybe even that extra point that we didn't get tonight, but it's shaping up to look like that. We'll see how it plays out. We are the last game, I think, of the entire first round. So, aside from what's happening up in Seattle, we'll have some relative sense of what we need to do on the night, whether that's extra points or getting all 3 points or what our goal differential would need to be. So that's one good thing. As you go into it, you kind of know what you got to know what you got to do.
Hey, Coach. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's okay.
Oh, okay. As for the league rules, winner has to be found tonight. Unfortunately, you guys lost tonight's game. How do you process today's result? I mean, given the team's performance.
Yeah, again, I thought we had to, in terms of performance, I thought we had to adapt inside of the game and throughout the game. Again, they play the way they play. They're a very good team. First of all, they, obviously CONCACAF champions. They're a good team, and the way they play is relatively unique in terms of the man-to-man and how quickly they organize and do that. And they're very competent with the ball. So, without time to prepare and not seeing that very often, we knew at some point we were going to have to adapt inside the game and find the solutions inside of the game. So I was happy that the group did that. I felt like we finished stronger than we started, which shows the ability to, I think, adapt and grow into the game. Shootouts, they're not crapshoots, but when you go to that many shooters, it starts to get a little bit iffy. You're getting guys now that aren't super confident in terms of the shooting, and you want, like I said, you want your keeper to try to get 1 or 2 in the earlier rounds so you don't get quite that deep. But I was really pleased with our effort. I was pleased with again, the group's ability to adapt and the adjustments that the guys were making through the course of the game. And the result is now what it is, and we still have everything to play for, in my opinion, in this tournament. And so, the third game, we got to go out, prepare ourselves to beat Santos, and we'll find out what the goal differential is that we need to have if we're going to get ourselves through.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I can hear you either way.
Hello. I've heard a couple players lately say, I wish we didn't have to go to a shootout after a tie. It got me thinking with the Marco situation, him going down, getting some treatment on the field. Is that one of those where maybe, obviously he's your first penalty shooter? Sure. Is that a reason you keep him on the field? Might you otherwise take him off there?
Yes and no. Yes, in that in a normal situation, if I have a substitution and I see him go down, I would take him off. We didn't have an extra sub. We had used our 3 windows just prior to that, and then he went down in the roughly 91st minute or so. So we actually didn't have another sub window to bring him off. So we put him up high and kind of just said, just kind of hang out, defend one of the center backs. Didn't expect him to get on a full breakaway, go in the other direction, but it played out that way. But normally I probably, given the situation, I would have taken him off if I had another window and we didn't have penalties. I knew he was a shooter, and so that did play into the equation. If I had an equation, it would play in the equation. But I didn't because I didn't have a sub window. But yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Coach.
That's it?
With that
Okay.
last
Thanks,
question,
everyone.
we
We
conclude
appreciate you.
tonight's post-match press conference.